We live in a world overflowing with information, speed, and options, but starved of meaning. We know what we do. We're obsessed with how we do it faster, cheaper, and better. Yet when pressure hits, when uncertainty shows up, when motivation disappears, everything feels fragile. Why? Because without context, effort feels random. Without context, sacrifice feels unfair. Without context, even success feels empty. The why is not a motivational slogan. It is not a luxury for idealists. The why gives us context, and context changes how we endure pain, how we make decisions, and how long we were willing to stay in the fight. When people don't understand why they're doing something, they burn out, they resist change, they lose trust. But when the why is clear, struggle gains meaning, challenges become temporary, and action becomes intentional. The question isn't, what are we doing next? The real question is, do we remember why we started? Because when the why is clear, everything else finds its place. Effort without context drains men faster than failure ever could. A man can work long hours, carry heavy responsibility, and push through exhaustion if he understands why he is doing it. But when that reason is unclear, every task feels like punishment rather than progress. The male brain is wired to move toward purpose, not motion, and when effort lacks meaning, motivation collapses from the inside out. Men don't shut down because they are weak. They shut down because the effort no longer makes sense. From a man's perspective, effort is tied to identity, being useful, capable, and contributing to something bigger than himself. When that connection disappears, frustration turns into silence, and silence turns into disengagement. From a woman's perspective, this often looks like laziness or emotional distance, when in reality it is confusion about value and direction. Context transforms sacrifice into something sustainable. When men understand how their effort connects to people they love, a future they believe in, or a mission that matters, pain becomes tolerable and discipline becomes natural. Women often intuitively understand emotional context, but men need it clearly articulated, not assumed. When context is missing, even love-driven effort feels transactional rather than meaningful. Men are not motivated by pressure, they are motivated by purpose. When effort is demanded without explanation, it triggers resistance, not commitment. Women may interpret this resistance as stubbornness, but psychologically it is self-preservation, protecting energy from being wasted on something that feels directionless or temporary. Context is what allows men to endure uncertainty without losing themselves. When effort is connected to a clear why, men feel respected rather than used, trusted rather than controlled. Without that clarity, effort becomes hollow, progress feels invisible, and even success fails to satisfy. Pain without purpose is a burden that breaks men quietly. Men are wired to endure, to struggle, and to protect. But when the reason for that struggle is invisible, suffering becomes isolating. Pain feels endless when it is disconnected from meaning, and men in particular internalize that pain, hiding it from those around them. Women often see the effects, anger, withdrawal, frustration, but they rarely see the internal question driving it: why am I doing this? Purpose gives pain direction and energy. When a man understands why he is facing challenges, the same struggle that once drained him now sharpens his focus and fuels resilience. The male mind seeks a mission, a target, something to measure progress against. Without purpose, endurance is arbitrary. With purpose, even the heaviest burdens feel like steps towards something greater. Women often provide the emotional context, connecting men to relationships, family, or shared goals. But men need clarity in action. They need to see how the struggle shapes the world or aligns with a deeply held value. Men approach challenges differently when pain is reframed as part of a larger narrative. When they understand the significance of their efforts, they do not just endure, they become motivated to fight, to innovate, and to lead. Women notice the transformation. The withdrawal becomes engagement, the frustration becomes determination, and the quiet despair becomes a shared sense of mission. This is why alignment between action and purpose matters more than discipline alone. The way men interpret pain is intensely tied to identity. They measure themselves by their capacity to overcome, to provide, to contribute. When there is no why, that measure collapses, leaving exhaustion and resentment. But with a clearly understood purpose, pain is no longer a liability. It becomes the raw material for growth, connection, and fulfillment. The struggle stops being a burden and starts being a bridge to meaning if only the why is visible and shared. Trust is built long before results appear, and clarity is the foundation of that trust. Men are wired to respond to certainty. When they understand the why behind decisions, expectations, and actions, they invest fully. Without clarity, even the most capable man hesitates, second-guesses himself, and withholds effort. Women often interpret this hesitation as doubt or lack of commitment, but it is really a response to ambiguity. Men need to see the path clearly before they step forward with confidence. Clarity communicates respect. When a man knows why his role matters, what the stakes are, and how his contributions fit into the bigger picture, he feels trusted and valued. He is not motivated solely by instruction or reward. He is motivated by understanding. From a woman's perspective, this clarity creates a sense of partnership. She sees engagement and alignment, not just compliance. The male brain seeks order and purpose. And when clarity is provided, men are not only willing, but eager to take responsibility and lead within that structure. When clarity precedes action, men make better decisions under pressure. Ambiguity creates doubt, and doubt erodes trust internally and externally. Women often notice the tension this creates in relationships, teams, and families, interpreting it as misalignment or conflict. But when the why is clear, men move decisively, communicate openly, and commit wholeheartedly. Trust flows naturally from understanding before any measurable results emerge. Men interpret ambiguity as risk. Clarity transforms risk into opportunity. They measure themselves against the meaning of their actions, not just the outcome. Women, observing this dynamic, see engagement and confidence blossom when men know why they are doing what they are doing. Clarity is the invisible currency that allows men to commit, endure, and perform, shaping behavior and relationships long before the first tangible result is visible. Resistance is rarely about fear of change. It is almost always about confusion. Men in particular struggle when the reasons behind new directions, expectations, or decisions are unclear. Their brains are wired to protect energy and preserve agency. And without understanding the why, every shift feels arbitrary. Women often interpret this hesitation as stubbornness or avoidance, but it is really a signal that the path is obscured and the purpose is missing. Confusion triggers withdrawal. When men cannot connect a change to a meaningful outcome, they pull back, slow down, or disengage entirely. They are not resisting progress. They are resisting being asked to ND effort without knowing how it matters. Women often feel the impact socially and emotionally, sensing frustration or detachment, while the man internally asks whether the new direction aligns with his identity, responsibilities, and values. Without clarity, commitment evaporates, and even the most well-intentioned change meets invisible walls. When the why is clearly articulated, resistance transforms into alignment. Men respond to reason, sequence, and purpose. They need to see how the new path connects to their personal mission, their contributions to others, or the long-term vision. Women often intuitively provide context emotionally, but men require it rationally, in actionable terms. Once the connection is made, hesitation shifts into engagement, and confusion is replaced by trust and cooperation. Change becomes a tool, not a threat, when men understand the purpose behind it. Ambiguity fuels anxiety. Clarity fuels commitment. Women notice the difference immediately. Engagement, proactive problem solving, and energy replace detachment and tension. Men step forward confidently when the why is visible, and resistance melts away, not because change becomes easy, but because it finally makes sense and aligns with what they value most deeply. Compliance is easy. Commitment is rare. Men can follow instructions, meet expectations, and perform tasks without fully understanding why. But that is only compliance. True engagement, the kind that drives innovation, perseverance, and loyalty, comes when effort is connected to a clear context. Men are wired to measure meaning and purpose. When the context is missing, their energy goes to checking boxes rather than creating impact. Women often interpret compliant behavior as cooperation, but they can sense when the heart is not in it, when effort is given, but investment is withheld. Context transforms obligations into ownership. When a man understands the why behind his actions, he begins to internalize responsibility rather than simply obey. The male psyche thrives on clear cause and effect. Effort applied without understanding feels inefficient, even futile. Women perceive this dynamic in relationships, teams, and families, recognizing when a man is contributing because he wants to, not because he has to. Commitment emerges when context connects the task to identity, values, and vision. Men approach challenges differently when they understand the larger narrative. Compliance can keep a man present. Commitment makes him persistent. Without context, pressure becomes oppressive, and deadlines feel like chains. With context, pressure becomes a compass, guiding decisions, shaping priorities, and energizing action. Women often notice the shift subtly. Men become proactive, solutions-oriented, and more emotionally present. Commitment grows out of understanding, not obligation, and clarity provides the bridge between the two. The difference between compliance and commitment is trust in the why. Men need to see how their effort affects outcomes, impacts others, and aligns with principles they respect. When this clarity is provided, they move from minimal participation to wholehearted engagement. Women often sense this leap in energy and focus, observing the difference between a man who is merely fulfilling expectations and one who is fully invested. Context is the lens that transforms instruction into ownership, effort into passion, and duty into devotion. Men respond not to authority alone, but to purpose made clear, and it is that clarity that defines whether they simply comply or fully commit. Action is never born from obligation. It is born from understanding. Men are naturally wired to respond to purpose, not pressure. When the why is clear, effort ceases to feel like work and begins to feel like necessity. Men will endure fatigue, uncertainty, and risk if they understand what their actions are contributing to and how those actions connect to something larger than themselves. Women often notice the difference immediately. A man who acts with clarity of purpose moves decisively, communicates openly, and inspires trust, whereas a man who acts without context hesitates, withdraws, or simply goes through the motions. Clarity of why provides direction in moments of doubt. Men measure success not only by outcomes, but by the alignment of their actions with their values and identity. When a man knows why he is doing something, every decision becomes easier, every challenge more manageable. Women often sense when a man is operating without this alignment. Frustration, irritability, and disengagement can appear. Understanding the why transforms these behaviors into focus, patience, and resilience. Action becomes inevitable because it is no longer optional. It is the natural response to clarity. Motivation derived from obligation is fleeting. Motivation derived from understanding is enduring. Men are capable of immense focus and creativity when their efforts are tethered to meaning. Women often observe this dynamic in collaborative spaces, families, or relationships. A man who understands the why is proactive, not reactive. He anticipates problems, seeks solutions, and inspires those around him to step up as well. The why becomes the anchor that grounds action, the compass that guides decision-making, and the fuel that sustains perseverance under pressure. When the why is visible, men do not wait for permission or external validation. They move. The clarity of purpose creates inevitability in action because it transforms the abstract into the tangible, the burden into the mission, and the unknown into a path forward. Women recognize this energy, and it changes the dynamic. Between observation and participation, engagement replaces doubt, collaboration replaces isolation, and initiative replaces hesitation. Men respond powerfully when they understand not just what is expected of them, but why it matters. And that understanding turns effort into momentum, uncertainty into confidence, and intention into action that cannot be delayed.